Right. Just let me get myself situated. We can get this thing going. See if we can get some people into this stream so we can have some real hip hop discussion. We're going to talk about the collaboration album with 50 Cent and Eminem into this that we never got to see. What's going on, you guys? What's popping? Let's get some people in the stream and let's talk about this, because I have a couple suggestions as to what the Eminem and 50 Cent album would have been. I was actually just, going over the album, the re-up, with my partner Ryan B. So I actually wanted to come on here and talk about it. What up, Robert Casey? What's going on? Share this video, you guys. Let's get some more people in here right now. Let's talk about this, because basically I'm going to go over the whole album, the re-up album, right now. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Let me bring in my co-host, because we were actually talking about the album, the re-up, and a couple of the tracks from that album actually caught our eye as possibly being able to, maybe it could have been that collaboration album that we had all heard about in earlier years between 50 Cent and Eminem. What's going on, though? Share this video. Let's get some people in here so we can have some hip-hop discussion. Let's get some hip-hop discussion going on today, you guys. Let's talk about some real shit. Let's talk about some real shit today. I know there's a lot going on right now, but honestly, we can get up on here and talk about some hip-hop, right? Just waiting for my co-host Ryan B to join me right now. I wanted to talk about this album, the re-up album. It's all about harmonizing, Edwin says. It's all about harmonizing in 2021. It's hilarious. That is hilarious. Harmonizing. Edwin, thank you for tuning in, man. What's up, Joe D? Rochester's in the building. Well, we are talking about an album right now, an album that we all saw come out, an album that I think could have had a lot more steam. You know what I mean? I actually wanted to talk about this album, the re-up. So this is what's written about the album on Wikipedia. Basically going to go over the track listing for the album. Let me bring it up right here. So this album dropped in December, right? This album here dropped December 5th, 2006. And it actually featured a number of new Shady Record signees. It had Obi Trice, who was already released his second album at this point on a record called We're Back. But by his third album, he wouldn't even be with the group any longer. You know what I mean? By his third album, it dropped in like many years later. Charleston, South Carolina, Waviness. Yep, Hip Hop News with Facts. Hip Hop News with Facts, you guys. So let's talk about some of these records that were on the re-up, talk about some of the artists that were featured. You see here, they had a record called Pistol Pistol. You guys might remember that. Obi Trice did the remix on that. Murder with Bizarre and Conniva. So in 2006, that kind of made you think that Eminem would actually be, you know what I mean, continuing the legacy of D12. But that didn't come to be, because the last D12 album that technically released, was in 2004. My guy, my co-host Ryan B. Heasy is in with me from New Haven, Connecticut. So yeah, Ryan, basically we're going over the track list for the re-up right now, which you said to me quite possibly could have been the joint album that Interscope never got between 50 Cent and Eminem.
Definitely. They had like 3 or 4 joints on there where they were collaborating with each other, with their artists included, like Lloyd Banks and Cassius. Yeah, that would have been the way to go.
So Ryan, being an original purchaser of this album, How did it start off on the intro with the record, the Shady Narcotics intro?
It was hard, man. That was a hard record, and it definitely caught my attention. Like from the when it first came on to where the drums hit the track, like it was like that slow build. You know what I mean? Eminem was shouting out a lot of the artists that were coming, you know, that were up next and the current artists that they had on their label. It was a good project, man.
Yep. So they started off, as I was saying, they started off with We're Back. M's
Yep.
on there. Obi Trice is on there. I explained to everyone that Obi had actually just released his second album, Second Rounds on Me, in August. The re-up released December 2006 to close out the year. You remember everyone was talking about this as a mixtape, but then it got booted up to being an album, correct?
Right. Right.
And
At that time, they had just lost their DJ too, where they were putting out all their projects under all their mixtapes. So I figured once they lost, who Green Lantern, DJ Green Lantern.
okay.
They had lost him over the beef with I guess he was talking between 50 and Jada when they had their whole little situation going on. So I guess that's when they decided to make it an actual album.
Okay, yep. So they lost their DJ. So they were like, okay, we've lost our DJ, but we've got retailers who will purchase hundreds of thousands of copies of this and put it on their shelves instead. So, wow. But as you were saying, when we were talking about this a little bit earlier, you were like, wow, this could have actually been the Eminem and 50 Cent album that we never got. And in all honesty, you guys, if this would have been marketed as 50 Cent and Eminem, the re-up, it would have sold a ton more units.
A G-Unit Shady collaboration compilation album, yes, that would have been the way to go.
Because at this point in time, so the album debuted at number 2, and it has sold over 1 million copies in the U.S. alone. But let's be honest, if they were marketing it as a 50 Cent Eminem album, Eminem and 50 Cent album, it would have sold probably 5 to 10 million albums.
Easy. Those are two heavy players at that time too.
Yep. So we're looking at the first record on the re-up right now, you guys. The first record on the re-up. Let me add in my guy Majestic.
Yo,
What
yo,
is
yo,
poppin'?
yo.
Can you
Hey,
hit us
bro.
with a circle of wealth?
The circle of wealth.
Every time he gets me with that, Ryan. So we're looking at this album, and it starts off with We're Back, which features Obi Trice, who is on his past his second album at this point. You know, he's got his first album out, his second album 6 months before this. So it kind of leads me to believe they're putting him on a record called We're Back, right? They're putting Obi Trice on a record called We're Back, but he didn't even go on to release his third album with Shady Records.
Yeah, he ended up leaving. Him, Bobby Creekwater, and Stat Quo all ended up leaving, and Cassius. Everybody left Shady. And I guess that's when they started doing their Shady 2.0, when they started bringing in like Joe Budden, Yellow Wolf, or not Joe Budden, but Slaughterhouse. You know what I mean? Moving in with the next wave.
So yeah, another track 4, actually, they've got 2 of the D12 members. So as I said, this album was released in 2006. D12's last album as a group came out in 2004. Ryan, with having these 2 members, Bizarre and Bizarre Get Well, Ryan has actually worked with Bizarre on a record called Cranberry Sour. But what did you lead you to believe to see that Murda actually featured Bizarre and Kaniva from D12, Ryan?
I thought it was pretty dope. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of putting a light on the most popular person in D12, aside from Eminem, Bizarre with the shower cap, and a lesser known member who's usually playing the background, like with Kaniva. And then they had Eminem on the hook, just doing the murder, doing the chorus or whatever. That was good. Not single potential, but that was a good record.
Yeah, man, it's crazy that we actually never got to see the third D12 album. I imagine they had some enough proof material recorded to do one.
You would think so. Even if they had to use some old stuff, You know what I mean? That would have been fine. There's a lot of D12 material that's never actually reached mainstream.
Right. Right. And I'm sure that they probably had stuff left over from his debut album they could have used.
The Garcia album, yeah, Finding Garcia, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think once he died, man, that was kind of. I don't even think the second album was going to happen unless Proof was there. I think Proof is when I got them all together for that. And then when they recorded My Band, they were like, "Oh, we got something. We'll play off of this." You know what I mean? Like we're the background singers to Eminem. You know what I mean? Like we could play off of this and make a whole album out of it. Then they had the song that the second single, "How Come." That was dope because that was like real turmoil inside
Yeah.
the group. You know what I mean? So it's just like, okay, we could build an album off of what we really going through. You know what I'm saying? Boom.
Right. Right. As you saw on the D12 World album, a lot of them did start to break off. Like Bizarre had solo cuts on there, and I want to say Proof had a solo cut on there as well. But yeah, so we were actually speaking about that, and Bizarre actually released his album, The Handicap Circus, to follow up that D12 World album. That album released on a independent. It released on an independent with a single called Rockstar. And, that was kind of piggybacking off of My Band, like you said. But Bizarre would continue to go on to get love from Shady Aftermath here.
Yep. Lined them up with the best producers, best collaborations within the camp. Yeah. That one should have took off.
Yo, Ryan, Stack's House Productions asked, didn't they release a whole disc CD at Ja and Benzino?
Yeah, they did that with Green Lantern. I think it was the Invasion mixtapes. Like the first one was going at I don't even remember now. The first one was going at Benzino. The second one was going at Murder Inc. And the third one just kind of got lost in the sauce. I don't really think it had a direction, but yeah, they definitely did. So there's two different CDs to answer your question. There's two different ones. Invasion 1 was at Benzino. 2 was at Ja Rule. That's when he had 50, G-Unit, everybody just slaughtering Murder Inc. Slaughtering. That was a good tape too.
Yeah, I might have been wrong about Proof having his own solo track on D12's World.
It might have just been busy. But Proof definitely had a lot of songs that you could tell he wrote.
They had Bugs' freestyle on there, sort of like how Tony Baker was featured.
Yeah. Yeah.
What up, Eric Spencer? Appreciate you for tapping in, man. We're actually doing a little review, something new on the channel. Ryan B and I, we're actually doing a review of the Re-Up album right now. Ryan had actually purchased that album personally. I can't remember at this point if I purchased that album,
I had the cartoon cover art. Eminem actually hand drew all the artists that had something to do with it. And then M was saying, like, he's a good rapper. That's how he's therapeutic, but he's also an artist too. He just doesn't do the art as much. But yeah, that album cover is actually hand drawn by M.
Not to get too off topic, Ryan, but one of my guys in the chat said Nail in the Coffin should be considered top 2 best diss songs, with Ether being the number 1 greatest of all time. Would you put Nail in the Coffin up there above Hit 'Em Up?
Nail in the Coffin is amazing. It's definitely top 10 best diss records of all time. The only reason why it doesn't get that recognition because you had all that fire for who? Benzino? Like, bruh. You know what I'm saying? It's not much of a competition at that point. Like, I heard Benzino's 2 diss records. It wasn't even, it wasn't nothing to walk away from. It's like when you compare like a Ether and a Takeover, that's like that's 2 dope MCs on 2 equal playing fields. When it's Benzino versus one of the greatest MCs of all time, greatest lyricists of all time, it's still dope, but that's probably why it doesn't get the recognition that it deserves to have. But I definitely agree, though. Nail in the Coffin was incredible. Incredible record. And it was dope because the way he broke it down, like, he listened to everything. He listened to everything that Benzino said that was like a good jab, and then he flipped it on him. You know what I'm saying? Just like he did in 8 Mile. That's what Eminem's good at. Like, he's good at the rebuttals.
Eminem is good at the rebuttals. You're right, man. They actually were talking about that on the Queen's Flip show to Benzino, and they were like, you're telling me you weren't feeling the lyrics when Eminem said he'll make you splatter all over the pavement and then you'll be all over the street like 50 Cent?
Spill the beans and rice.
Belicki agreed with you. He said because of the weak component. I get it. That was a great breakdown right there, Ryan. So from there we go to a Pistol Pistol remix with Obi Trice. That was song 3. We went over song 4, Murder with Bizarre and Kaniva. Personally, I would have thought that would have led to a new D12 album, but as Ryan said, that they were really pairing the most popular of D12 with one of the most lesser known members of D12 to give him some light, which was dope. And then they had another artist that they were working with, Ryan. I want to say he was out of the Cali. Cassius? Was he out of Cali or was it Chicago? Let me look it up.
I believe Cali.
No, he was born in Chicago. He was born in Chicago. Now, I've actually interviewed Cassius in the past. Cassius was born in Chicago. He was raised in Chicago, but moved to Irvine, California. He was most notably featured on the Shady Records album Eminem Presents the Re-Up. Why is that, Ryan? Because he was featured on the lead single of the Re-Up.
Right. With Banks, 50, and M.
Right. He was featured with M, 50 Cent, and Lloyd Banks on the record called You Don't Know, which Eminem also produced.
Hard record.
But the record that that Cassius got at number 5 was actually called Everything Is Shady. Ryan, that was actually produced by Rick Noddy, somebody that is with Cassius to this day. Can you remember anything about that record?
Everything, man. That's where that's when I became a Cassius fan. Listening to that, the way like the production on that was crazy. Just it was like a trunk rattler. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it was hard. His bars are on point. I love the hook. The hook took me out. You know what I mean? If we're just talking about a good MC with good penmanship, putting it on a dope beat, that was it. Yeah, if he's still working with that producer today, he's smart because they have something. They really got something. Shout out to Cassius.
Okay, so I'm trying to remember what Cassius's album was supposed to be called because it didn't release as an album. It actually released as an EP. That was
5-joint.
Yeah, was it called Loose Cannon?
I forgot. I remember walking into FYE and it was right at the cashier. It was right at the cashier's desk. Like he had like a whole little mound of them like when you first walk in, and it was like an EP that said Cassius on it. I remember the cover and everything. I don't remember the name though. But yeah, because I was looking forward for the album and I'm like, oh, this is what we got.
Right. We actually got an EP from Cassius that I want to say it was limited release, but if you're saying it was right there at the cash register, I mean that means they put it right in front of you. Yeah, Iceberg. We had said that Ryan actually has worked with Bizarre in the past on a record called Cranberry Sour. Bizarre is in the hospital currently. It's not COVID though. He got some other health issue. I ain't like this shock rap style. I ain't like his shock rap style. He was the weakest link to me, Ryan. What do you got to say about that?
I mean, Bizarre's different. I would put Bizarre in a category all on his own. He's a comedic rapper. You know what I mean? He's trying to say where most MCs are trying to say, some MCs might be trying to say the most gangster. Some MCs might try to be saying like the most hardest things. Bizarre is going for shock value. He's trying to say something that's going to make you look at him like he's bizarre. So, I mean, he owned it. You know what I mean? It's a take it or leave it type thing. And that's probably why the album didn't do what it was supposed to do, because the people felt the way that you felt. You know what I'm saying? Like it didn't connect with them. It didn't resonate with them. Like a lot of times when we listen to rap, we want to hear that gangster rap. You know what I'm saying? We want to hear that club rap, and comedic shock rap ain't on the top 10 levels of what people are listening to hip hop for. A lot of MCs fall for that. But shout out to Bizarre because he sticks to it, he owns it, and he has his own fan base and he's touring off of it. Hope he gets well soon and get back to it.
So looking at this album, the Re-Up, the next song we come on is number 6. It's actually the title track, The Re-Up, Eminem featuring 50 Cent, again produced by Eminem. Now, this is the reason that we're taking a look at this so in-depthly right now, because this potentially could have been the album that they talked about for so many years. Ryan, the album they talked about with 50 and Eminem was going to be called Black and White, but I think it would be more properly titled The Re-Up.
The Re-Up. Yeah.
So
Definitely. Like, is that
take me into this track though, Ryan. What do you most remember about this collaboration from M and 50? Was it more patiently waiting? Was it more serious? Was it more Gatman and Robin? It looks like we have a track coming up on the list that might be a little more Gatman and Robin-ish.
to me, it just showed a lot of chemistry. Like you could tell, like nobody sent nobody a beat or nothing like that. It was like, from the impression I got, it was like M and 50 was sitting in the studio side by side. He's like, "Yo, what do you think about these drums? Chuck, doom, doom, chuck, doom, doom, chuck. Yeah, that's what's up. Oh, yo, I like that. Let's make that the hook. You know what I'm saying? Boom." And then this is like the one time where Eminem didn't. Eminem is Eminem. Don't get me wrong, but he didn't completely outshine 50. Like the same way M was bringing the bars, 50 was also bringing the bars too. So you can tell it was a real collaboration because like M wasn't trying to outshine him. He was more trying to like collaborate with him and complement his style as well as 50 complimenting his, just like what we got on the Royce the 5'9" Eminem album, Bad Meets Evil. So like, yeah, it was more like a patiently waiting Gatman and Robin, but stronger and not rushed. Like really, really took their time in getting it. Yeah, he was.
Right. So from right there, from the re-up, we go into the lead single, You Don't Know, which had a big push. I mean, they brought all the guys on 106 in Park. They did the premieres on like TRL and stuff like that back in the day. They really they even had the music video with the style, the theme of the video with Eminem with the Hannibal Lecter mask. You know what I mean? They really had a different, they put some budget into this video. Do you think that's once it came that this was going to be an official album, they're like, okay, we have the single ready to go right here?
Yeah, and they were working with those guys that were shooting those videos at the time. The same guy that shot Toy Soldiers for Eminem's album.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, dope visuals, really dope visuals. I forgot the guys' names, but yeah, they were really good.
So what'd you think about this whole collaboration? I mean, obviously it's been proven in the past that 50, Eminem, and Banks have chemistry, but what did you think about them adding Cassius? Now Cassius had a solo song, right? But he's also got the lead song too.
He fit well in that. Not for nothing. Like he fit well in that whole, you know what I mean? You got 50, you got M, and then you got Banks, who's already established, but that's also 50's artist. And then you got Cassius, who Eminem is trying to bring into the forefront. You know what I mean? He didn't let down. He didn't let it down at all.
Right.
I
So
hit like on that. Iceberg. I hit like on that. Definitely. I listen to Devil's Night every October 30th. The actual Devil's Night.
so we get into this next record, which I had mentioned earlier, is like it's kind of like Eminem doing his thing, his weird voice sounding thing. We get into Jimmy Crack Corn. You know
Oh
what I
Lord.
mean?
Yeah.
Jimmy Crack Corn. Now this is an Eminem and 50 Cent cut again. These guys have done a few records like this together. Gatman and Robin, Peep Show. Is this simply just a cut of Eminem and 50 that's laying around?
Yeah, and in my opinion, the way that song came off to me was it was like a song that Eminem had already had, and then you know what I mean, probably just took the last two verses off of it, and 50 listened to him and was like, "Oh, I could get with that. I could get with that." Because I just can't see 50 walking around singing Jimmy Crack Corn, but I don't care. You know, that's Eminem. You know what I mean? But 50 definitely collaborated on it good. He
But he
definitely,
knows
you know what I mean? He listened to it, complimented it, and it was dope.
Right, right. But he knows it. He knows the concept. He understands that Jimmy Crack Corn is a concept that what 50, 100 million Americans know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And who don't care like Eminem and 50 Cent?
But but I want to ask you before we move on from this, like, why do these guys have such that comical side to their relationship to where they're doing like that Beavis and Butthead like shit?
They're real friends, man. They're real friends. And that was only like tapping the surface of like what in a whole album of the two of them could have been. Because they both think they're crazy. You know what I mean? They both think they're geniuses. It could have went so like I would like to see M go more in the 50s realm as much as I would like to see 50 go more in the M's realm. Like hear Eminem be a little more thuggish, a little more gangster, because it's definitely in him. Like we heard them songs. And just like I would like to see the more, because 50's a comedian. We could look at his IG and see that, but we've never actually seen that in his music. So we could have got a side of that. I'm telling you, that album, man, that a 50 Cent Eminem album would have been crazy. Somebody at Paul Rosenberg, let him know.
Yeah, it was rumored for so many years. You know what I mean? It just kind of hit me, everyone watching, it just kind of hit me today when Ryan RBH, as you guys know him, Ryan B, when we were talking about the Re-Up album, and Ryan said to me, he's like, yo, that would have been the best opportunity for them to do a 50 Cent and Eminem project. It's 2006. Really, if we're looking at the situation in '06, G Unit and Aftermath needed that extra spark. I don't know why they didn't market this as the 50 Cent Eminem collaboration project the world had been waiting, what, 3 years to see?
Yeah, definitely. Ever since Patiently Waiting.
Ever since Patiently Waiting. And, you know, Ryan was touching on it, the real friendship aspect of it. Because, you know, I would love a whole album full of Patiently Waitings. You know what I mean? Full of Don't Push Me. You know what I mean? Full of them tracks. But you need records like that show the comical side, to show the friendship side, to show like the sarcastic nature. You know what I mean? 50 started doing a lot more of what Eminem did on his tracks by like on the third album, 50 had said, you can hear me laugh, you can hear me, you know, cough or whatever, and you can hear all the different types of things I do with my voice on this album. But next, Ryan, we're going to get into a solo Proof record. It's called Trapped. Do you remember it?
Not like I should. Not like I should. I ain't gonna lie to you. And we can't play some of it either, huh?
No. You're gonna have to
Yeah, I don't know.
after. But my guy Mark Flex says, do you think that Dr. Dre will bring everybody together to do one more classic album, Ryan? Eminem, 50 Cent, The Game, Snoop, Exhibit, Corrupt, Daz, Warren G, Ice Cube. Is that all the ingredients you need, Ryan?
You gotta put Lady of Rage in there. You gotta put DOC. Shit, you even gotta put Jay-Z in there. Maybe not in the front of the line, but you know, just like one of them little sub credits. You know what I mean? But I think that's what he's working on now. Hopefully, that's what Detox is gonna be. I'm hoping, but you got to remember, he's not really working with the same people he was working with back then, and that's the whole holdup with why Detox never came. A lot of those producers he fell out with and then got back with, like Melman, RBX. I think they're back on board now, but Focus, another one, like a lot of those producers that was underneath Dre, I guess they felt they weren't getting the proper credit as they deserved. It wasn't only from that album, it was also from Get Rich or Die Trying, where Dre was getting a lot of the predominant credits and a lot of the producers underneath them weren't. So a lot of the people in that camp left. And that's why the sound ain't been the same for Dre. And that's why he's been struggling to recreate what the Chronic 2001 was, or even the first Chronic. But yeah, time's passed. If he can get all those people back under his umbrella, I would say, yo, if he's working on his last album, his legacy album, that's where he should be headed. Work with everybody who got you to where you at now. Bring everybody back under one roof and kill it.
So Ryan, this record here, solo record from Proof, this dropped in 2006. Let me see. Okay, on April 11th. So this was actually a record that dropped after Proof's death. Proof was actually shot 3 times on April 11th, 2006. So this is actually a record that came out after Proof's passing. Ryan had briefly touched on the album from Proof that he dropped, his big solo album that was called Searching for Jerry Garcia in 2005. But yeah, Proof was featured on the re-up after his death. So that's interesting to me as well, you know, just to read that right now, you know, that they were still giving Proof the time of day after his passing, Ryan.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Sad, man. That was sad. That whole situation was sad.
Yeah,
and
man.
then like the whole Like Toy Soldiers video actually mimicked and played out what damn near happened, like Proof getting killed. Give me 1 second.
Hope you guys are enjoying a different, you know what I mean, a different aspect of what we do. I like the Obi Trice guy. Obi Trice was actually featured on this album. We mentioned him a little bit earlier. We mentioned Obi Trice, who was featured on this album on a record called We're Back. basically the second track on the joint. Now, Obi had been with Shady at this point for 2 albums. You would think like this was going to be his time to, start preparing for his 3rd album. But to answer your question, Iceberg, no, Obi was not a part of D12. Obi Trice was not a part of D12. He was actually signed to Shady as a solo artist. He released his first album in 2003 called Cheers. Second album, Second Rounds on Me, he released following that with the single called Snitch featuring Akon. But that album actually only sold like 75,000 copies first week. Appreciate you for sticking around, man. Something new on the channel today, you guys. We're talking about albums. We're doing a album review. P. Dot, appreciate you for tuning in. Yeah, Obi was definitely nice. I really thought his second album was right up there with his first album, The Second Rounds on Me, compared to Cheers. The next record we got here is actually from 2 D12 members, Swifty McVeigh and Mr. Porter, and it's called Whatever You Want. But let me bring my guy RBH back in here. Oh, it's all good, Iceberg. It's all good. I was just explaining. I explained that a little bit earlier because it kind of struck me as weird that Obi Trice was featured on a record called We're Back, but then he wasn't going to be with the label. Ryan, we're talking about Whatever You Want now, track 10, which was actually Swifty McVeigh featuring Mr. Porter, 2 D12 guys.
That was good. It was good to give a little light on those guys too. You know what I mean? Give them their own little solo track, give them their own little spin. You know what I mean? Like those, man, I'm sorry, but if you weren't Eminem's hype man, or if you weren't wearing a shower cap and slightly overweight, you wasn't really going to stand out in that group like that, aside from the bars. You know what I mean? We're just talking about having that impact. So I think it was good on the on the re-up that they were able to do that. That was cool.
And again, I'll say it, Ryan, like putting these guys together on the record, like you had the other 2, you had these 2, and then you had, you know what I mean? And then you had a Proof solo record. It just led me to believe that we were going to get another D12 album. The world was talking about a 3rd D12 album at that point.
Yeah.
Waviness 843 says, enjoying today's show. Love the channel because it's always something different. Great show as always, bro. Appreciate you for tuning in, man. Definitely do. We're trying to do a little bit something different. Everyone share this video. So moving on to track 11, another record right here from the guy who impressed you, Cassius, Talking All That, produced again by his boy Rick Natty.
Yeah, them 2 are like peanut butter and jelly, man. I'm telling you. It's like, yo, when you got a good producer like a Dre and Snoop, or like even like a Kanye and a 2 Chainz, yeah, when you can align like that, you can make magic. But yeah, that was another good track from them. Another dope one. Another good standout track.
Yep.
Good enough to get his own solo tracks on the album at that.
Right. Good enough to get his own solo track. And another solo track, number 12, the Atlanta influence. The second ever person to do the deal that 50 did. 50 did the deal, Shady, Aftermath. Stat Quo did the same deal. Stat Quo was signed with both Eminem and Dr. Dre. We're going to touch on that, Ryan. The record's called By My Side. The record's called By My Side, produced by Focus. First, Ryan, what did you think about Stat Quo's influence and what he had to offer Shady Aftermath? It was definitely a new sound.
Definitely. I never heard nobody with a... See, Stat was different because like he was an Atlanta artist, but he wasn't on the traditional sound of a traditional Atlanta artist. You know what I mean? Like he actually had complex rhymes. Not saying that down south rappers don't, but a lot of down south rappers, they tend to just kind of ride the beat with their flow, or they'll do that stop and go Migos flow. But Nat or Young Thug and a lot of the dudes from Atlanta use the flow. But he didn't. You know what I mean? His flow was really like more like a New York. You know what I'm saying? And he had more like a New York like bars type flow. And he had like a lot of good lyrics too. And his voice was different. He really stood out to me on Eminem's album. What was it? With the purple with the blue curtains. Not the Eminem show, the one right after that.
About Encore.
Encore, right, where he had the song where it was him, Eminem, and 50,
yeah,
and they were talking about that girl. Even on that, the way his voice cut through, it reminded me of how Eminem used to use that hi, my name is, you know what I'm saying? I used to like high pitch his voice so he can cut through, so that way he could be on a track with like 20 different people, but you would know who Eminem was and you would identify him with the blonde hair. I would say Stat Quo had a little bit of that too. Yeah, by his cadence, you could tell he was from down south, but the way he rapped and conducted his bars, it was really like on some up north New York type. It was dope. Spent some time with me. Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
classic record.
I was really, hype on seeing what Stat Quo would bring to the table. The fact that Eminem was working with an Atlanta artist, the fact that Dre was going to be working with this Atlanta artist.
Yeah.
The album was actually going to be called Trivia. Trivia question, Ryan. What was Stat Quo's original debut album? And for everybody in the chat as well, what was Stat Quo's original album on Shady Aftermath going to be?
To quote Stat Quo, no, actually, to quote Cassius on the re-up, he said, "We about to run the A when we drop Statlanta." Statlanta.
Oh, oh, my man Ryan comes with something just a little bit better to answer the trivia. Ryan, are you ready? Are you ready for this hip hop trivia?
Let's go.
Trivia? Are you ready for it, man? When we get your first challenger, are you going to be the new hip hop trivia champion on this channel?
That's what I do, man. That's what I do. I'm a hip hop enthusiast. I mean, I rap, I'm an MC, but I love the history, I love the culture, and I love the research. So yeah, probably. I'm probably gonna take the belt.
All right, all right. So Ryan, again, Iceberg. Now we're going to talk about Obi Trice once again. So as I said earlier, Trice was featured on a record called "We're Back," which is like, okay, they must have signed him for another album or two, right? They must have signed him for another album or two, just based on the title of the track. But as you know, as an artist, a title of a track could change at any time.
Bro,
So they have another record here produced by the Alchemists, track 13, We Ride for Shady, Cassius and Obi Trice.
They had some real awkward collaborations on this. Like, it wasn't your usual people hooking up to do what they normally do. I think that's what made this album so special. You know what I'm saying? Like linking him up with Obi. Like that's dope. That's dope. I gotta go back and listen to this album again. I mean, I still know it, I still remember it, but man, we're bringing back some moments right now.
That's right. Everyone needs to go back, listen to the Re-Up album. Let us know your thoughts. Could this have actually been marketed as 50 Cent's album with Eminem? I mean, they've got 3 cuts on it together where they could have literally just filmed videos for it together. They could have obviously put You Don't Know. What was it called? You Don't Know. They could have used that as the 3rd single and featured Banks and Cassius.
Yep.
But let's get into some questions here real quick, Ryan. Stat Quo kind of got lost in the sauce. It was hard to come after Game and 50. We're just wrapping up their beef.
Bingo. That's exactly what happened. They lost focus, man. I felt that dude, man. He had the deal of a lifetime. Like Mikey T just said, he was signed with Dr. Dre and Eminem. That's the same situation that 50 had, and you see what it did for 50. Well, it just got lost in that Interscope sauce, man. Sad. Yeah, he was supposed to be.
Any thoughts on this title, We Ride for Shady, Ryan? Again, is it a title could be made up at any moment?
Yeah, pledging loyalty. You know what I'm saying? Pledging loyalty to the camp, to the crew, to the clique.
Okay, so it looks like the Alchemist actually had some serious work on here, Ryan. I'm noticing 3 tracks that the Alchemist did in a row. He did Riding for Shady. He also did the next track. But before we get into that, and everyone in the chat, somebody commented and said that I sort of look like the Alchemist. Is that true whatsoever?
No. All white people don't look alike. Stop being racist.
Okay. So anyways, so let's get here, Ryan. Okay. So yeah, Alchemist actually had 3 tracks in a row that he produced. And the guy you had mentioned earlier, Bobby Creekwater, actually had his chance to shine on one of them. And the record was called There He Is. What do you remember about Bobby Creekwater on the Re-Up album? They didn't do any music videos, or they didn't really do any extra promotion to, give a light of who he was.
Yeah, that you had to buy the album to dig into who Bobby Creekwater was. And he was supposed to have an album that followed up on Shady right after that came out. What stands out to me the most on that was this. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the Smack That remix with Nate Dogg. You know what I mean? He had a unique flow. You know what I mean? Like he sounded like somebody that was like from like Creekwater. Like you know what I mean? Like he was unique, man. I don't know why that didn't work out. He probably just never got the proper look, but Bobby Creekwater was nothing to mess with, man. He was dope. I'd like to check out some of the stuff that he's working on today.
Yep. So Stat Quo actually worked with the Alchemist as well on the track that followed that, called Trying to Win. Track 15, Trying to Win, Stat Quo, produced by the Alchemist. So Ryan, now we've got Cassius, Obi Trice, Bobby Creekwater, and Stat Quo, all of Eminem's young boys. Now, if we're being completely honest, these are all Eminem's young boys right there. Which of them meshed the best with Alchemist? Could I put you on the spot to remember that, or no?
Oh, with the Alchemist flow, I would say Stat. I'd say Stat Quo had that.
Try
Between his cadence to cut through all the samples and the flow that, because Alchemist was producing heavy for Mobb Deep at one point. So I mean, if we're gonna use that up north flow, like which one of his artists would be able to complement that the best? Definitely Stat Quo. And mind you, the reason why he probably got all these beats from Alchemist is because Alchemist was Eminem's DJ at this time too. Fun fact.
Okay, facts, man. That's crazy. But yeah, it was dope. Eminem obviously had his talent around the right people. He produced 3 tracks in a row. If anybody wants to check those records out that the Alchemist produced on the Re-Up album, it's actually tracks 13, 14, and 15, as I said, featuring all the young artists from Shady at that time. Cassius, Obi Trice, who was on his 3rd album, respectfully, Bobby Creekwater, and Stat Quo. Some people actually asked who Bobby Creekwater was in the chat, so I should probably go over that a little bit. Bobby Creekwater is an American rapper and hip hop producer from Atlanta, Georgia. So he's actually from the A as well. He used to be signed to Shady Records. And if anybody wants to check any work out from him, in 2005, he had a mixtape out called Anthem to the Streets. You probably won't be able to find that. Let's see. And on December 5th, 2006, Eminem released Eminem Presents the Re-Up, a mixtape turned album created to promote Shady Records' newest members, Stat Quo, Creekwater, and Cassius. Creekwater actually appears on 5 tracks. So it looks like we're going to get into him more. Up next, they actually mentioned the record that you had just brought up, Ryan. Smack That Remix. The Smack That Remix, man. Track 16. Was it really necessary?
No. My bad. I didn't even mean to say it like that, but no, I hated that. Ugh. And the fact that Eminem didn't even give us a new verse on it just made it that much more irritating. Don't get me wrong, the 2 artists killed it. You know what I'm saying? But no, I did not need it. You know what I mean? And that's what lets me know that this album started off as like a mixtape. You know what I mean? Like it was a lot of throwaway tracks that they were just like, oh, you know what? This is dope. Oh, you rapping over Pistol Pistol? Let's get that. Oh, yo, this song I just did with Akon's popping. Yo, do a couple verses to this and then we'll put it on the Re-Up album. Fuck it, it's the Re-Up. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I think I don't know. I want to say that this album probably started off as Black and White and then became the Re-Up, you know what I mean, the 50 Cent Eminem collaboration album. But then because of schedule conflict and timing or whatever, you know what I mean, it turned more into a Shady Records collab project.
All right, but let's be honest. If they were actually going to do this as a 50 Cent Eminem collaboration album, they would not have needed to include the Smack That remix.
No, hell no. It would have been all original music, not mixed, not freestyle, refurbished music. You know what I mean?
Okay, before we keep going here, Ryan, one of our viewers asked, could it be, and I think this is a little bit far-fetched personally, could it be that Young Buck was huge at the time and in the same camp and that it took shine away from Stat Quo? I don't think that's actually what it was. They had 2 very different styles. And plus, there was more room for other Southern artists, in my opinion, Ryan. There was more room for Shady Aftermath, G-Unit, Interscope to have more buzzing Southern artists. I don't think Young Buck was going to be the only buzzing Southern artist that they could have had.
No, no, because Interscope had a bunch of Southern artists at that time. Rich Boy, I could go on, but yeah, nah. And then not only that, the new Vlad interview that just came out with a Young Buck, it sounds like around this time they were kind of pushing Young Buck away anyway. This sounds like it's around the time the second album was coming. So if that's the case, they were trying to, push Young Buck to the side. You know what I mean? 50 wasn't really dealing with him like that. So nah, I don't think that had anything to do with it.
King, what did you said? What was an EP? The Cassius project was released as an EP. Why do you think that they did Cassius like that and only did him an EP? I mean, they just produced him on You Don't Know, Ryan. Why not give him a full album release? Why only give him, I think it was 7 cuts?
Is that was probably the plan? You know what I mean? They probably put out the EP just to generate the buzz for him. You know what I mean? Just to let him know he's out here. And then whatever led to whatever, and something failed, and somebody pulled out, and then it just never came into fruition.
Yeah, that was
That's
one
what
of
I
the
think.
that was one of the big things about, like they were marketing where Cassius was from. You know what I
Right,
mean? They marketed where 50 was from. They marketed where Obi Trice was from. You know what I'm saying? They marketed where Stat Quo was from, obviously in the name, Ryan. Statlanta. That was a
right,
big thing, about Interscope, about Shady Aftermath, letting you know who their artist was. That was one of the
right,
biggest things about these labels.
right. And
Okay.
they figured the formula. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we have Eminem, who's next to Dr. Dre. Okay, so that's making Eminem big. So now Eminem's big. So now we put D12 and Obi Trice next to Eminem. In return, that makes D12 and Stack and Obi Trice big. You know what I mean? Like that's their formula, pairing them up with bigger artists, so that way it rubs off on them, and then they potentially become bigger artists.
It
Just
really
doesn't always work out that way.
it really became so much to follow, Ryan. That's why a lot of people felt like G Unit was pushing their way in line ahead of all the D12 guys. But what
I'm
were you going to do? What were you going to do? Release every single D12 member? You know?
Nah, nah. You got to strike with an iron's hot. And G Unit was everything at that time.
But like I said earlier on the phone, the only way that it really could have worked out for D12 is if Eminem did Eminem and Bizarre,
Right.
Eminem
Yep.
and Proof, Eminem and
Mm-hmm.
Iva and Mr. Swift, whatever they were doing at that point as a little duo. But as we said earlier, Bizarre actually came out with his first album, The Handicap Circus. A little bit of information I didn't say is that Bizarre actually sold 21,000 units first week.
Mm.
He had a single called Rockstar, which piggybacked off my band. Ryan suggested to me that Eminem jumping on that probably would have took the record to a whole nother level. Bizarre's album actually debuted at number 48 on Billboard, Ryan, 21,000. Any prediction you could throw out there if Eminem featured on Rockstar, what number it would have hit on Billboard and how many more units it would have sold?
I would say at least top 20, at least the top 20, if not more, maybe even top 10. Anything that Eminem was on back then was going to skyrocket. Anything, you know what I mean? I mean, he still does it today, but back then it was even more so. You know what I mean?
That's dope, man. So Ryan's given it actually 18 more spots on the charts that Bizarre's album would have done. Now he moved 21,000 units back in that day. You know what I mean? This was in 2006, actually 2005, right after D12 Worlds dropped. So he came out hot, Ryan. But he felt, in my opinion, he must have felt a little bit upset that he only moved 21,000. But in reality, he should have just kept moving with it.
And this is also the time when streaming started. You know what I mean? So you gotta take that into consideration too. Albums wasn't selling the same way, even though I was still going to FYE and Sam Goody buying CDs because I like to read the pamphlets, see who produced what, this, that, and the third. A lot of people rather just go online and download it off Napster at this time. So he lost a lot of sales through that too.
Damn, that's a topic for another day, Ryan. After Shady Aftermath, G Unit versus Death Row. That's probably a topic for another day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I
uh,
agree.
so Iceberg's asking this question, Ryan, and I'm going to direct it to you. And I'll answer it as well now that I see that it's about record sales. So, did Benzino bring up a good point about Royce the 5'9" only selling 80K after Bad Meets Evil and being next to the hottest rapper? Slaughterhouse didn't do that great either. Why was that bad? Let me correct the numbers there. Slaughterhouse, actually, I want to say Slaughterhouse's first album, I want to say moved 75,000 units first week.
That sounds about right.
Now what Benzino, the qualm that Benzino made is that Royce came and made an album called Bad Meets Evil with Royce. Royce, who Eminem and Royce had issues for many years, they returned. They made an album. Overall, the album sold just under 500,000 copies, Ryan. So Benzino said, okay, Royce can move 500,000 copies with Eminem, but then when his album drops, he drops an album and it only does 16,000 first week. What's your thoughts?
I mean, you're not Eminem. You should be thankful that you getting that with that collaboration. You know what I mean? Like at the for every hip hop artist, it's gonna come a time when you're gonna put out a project. It's gonna be promoted right. It's gonna be marketed right, and people might just not like it. You know what I'm saying? It might just not hit that core audience of who you trying to hit. You know what I mean? Now, if we're talking about the Book of Ryan, that album was amazing. That album was incredible. Like, wow. You know what I mean? And then he had the other albums that were produced by Premier. Those albums, again, incredible. But Royce the 5'9" is a real MC. He's a real rapper. He's not going to resonate with everybody who resonates with Eminem. Those days are over with. Back then, back in 04, 06, during those times, yeah, no problem. That's why Obi Trice did so well. That's why D12 did so well. But today, it's not really going to work like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it is what it is. We all know who Royce is. It's just a matter of if the people are going to go out, embrace it, and support the project. If they don't, they don't. If they do, they do. But just because you're with Eminem doesn't mean you're Eminem. You know what I mean? Lloyd Banks, same thing with 50 Cent. Like you're right next to Lloyd Banks. 50's on your hooks and stuff, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna sell the way 50 Cent is gonna sell when his project drops. You know what I mean? Like after, and that's what it is, man. Once you put out a product, it's been marketed properly, people know about it. It's up to the people. It's up to the people to be receptive of it.
And let's be honest, as far as the record sales go, we just spoke on Bazaar selling 21,000 units and it being a good number. Young Thug came out several times where he only sold 20,000, 25,000, then he got up to 30,000. Dave East at a point came out and sold 25,000. So what's so bad about Royce the 5'9" selling 16,000 units right after he sold 400,000, 500,000? I mean, the guy put out another project and he got a few thousand people to go out and buy it. I'm pretty sure that's a win.
Yeah, it's a win it'd be a win for anybody. Benzino's just a hater. Like, in all honesty, man, let them eat, let them live, man.
Shady Gamer says 50 Cent and M should make a collaboration album. Well, that's why we're here talking about the re-up. That's why we're here talking about the re-up, man. They could have easily turned this into an Eminem and 50 Cent collaboration album. Right here, you see they got the title track, the re-up. They've got their other single together called Jimmy Crack Corn. And then they've also got the group single called You Don't Know, which featured Banks and Cassius. That could have been packaged up, 3 music videos right there, and marketed as, I think the re-up is a better title than Black and White as well.
Yeah.
All right.
So do I.
So let's get
another point I want to.
Sorry.
Before we move on, another point I wanted to make was. Give me 1 second.
Smoke break, y'all. Excuse me. My guy right here says Benzino pocket watching. I agree. And you got to take a look at the consideration of the time as well. Bazaar sold 21,000 units in 2005. You know what I'm saying? Bazaar sold those 21,000 units in 2005 for Royce the 5'9" to come out several years later and still do some units. First of all, Royce the 5'9" was always like a lot of people were like, is he in D12? Is he supposed to be in D12? I always looked at Royce as a solo artist, Ryan.
Same.
I would have not wanted to see him in D12. It would have not made sense. The D12 guys were good as they were. You wanted to see some members break off solo, Bazaar, Proof, you know what I mean? But Royce, solo artist, stay that way, man. I don't think D12 would have helped him in any way.
Nah, D12 is more. I ain't trying to play nobody, but D12 is more goofy. You know what I mean? And drug driven raps. Royce is more street and
Right.
more lyrical. But
Could
the
you
point I wanted. Oh, go
oh,
ahead.
could you before you make your point, could you picture Royce in Purple Pills? Could you picture Royce in the band? You know, like no. The only one I could have pictured Royce on was How Come? How Come he would have been
Yeah,
great.
yeah, because I mean they really come from that. Yeah, big facts. I
Yep.
don't know. Back when Royce was wearing the rhinestone do rag, you never know. You know. No, I'm just playing. I'm just being funny. I'm just being
So
funny.
yeah, Ryan. So you wanted to make a point before we move on to the next track.
I
Track
would, I
17.
would, s- I would say the most successful artist to put on a squad and the squad become just as big as the artist, if not bigger, will be Rick Ross.
Woo! All right. So let me ask you this then, man. One of the people in the chat said, I'm trying to find what he said. He said something about Stat Quo. My guy said Stat Quo should have signed to DJ Khaled or Rick Ross. Do you think after he left Shady Aftermath, do you think maybe doing a deal with We the Best or Maybach Music would have suited him?
Yeah, I could see him with the same type of push they were giving like Ace Hood.
Okay, that would
Definitely.
right amount. That would have been about the right time as well. You know what I mean? He's rocking with Shady until what, about 2009? Let's just say hypothetically, if he was working with them until 2009, 2010, he would have been able to break off onto MMG just about the right time. Me personally, nah, I don't think he would have worked on either of those labels. But he should have did something more than what he did, just working with the game and going totally independent.
Right, right. That's what it was, right? Didn't they start their own label together?
Yeah, they started their own label together, but I really like I don't know
Yeah.
what Stat Quo should have done, Ryan. I really don't know. When he lost his deal with Eminem and Dre, I don't know.
Yeah, he probably just gave up after that.
No,
Cut his
nobody,
losses.
nobody's saying that Rick Ross was working with Eminem.
No,
Nobody
no.
did any
Now,
either of that.
no, we're saying Rick Ross. Rick Ross is a good example of an artist putting on other artists and making the other artists bigger than the actual first artist that put them on. Like you got Wale and Meek Mill. They're dope in their own rights.
Okay, Ryan. So let's talk about the next record, track 17. If you can remember it for me, it was called Public Enemy Number One by Eminem.
It was just M on that one.
Just M on that one.
Was that the slow one over like the piano riffs?
I could It's the shortest track on the album actually at only a minute and 54 seconds.
Can you pull up the lyrics?
Yeah, let me pull up the lyrics.
Like, is it like in my mind I'm a fighter? Like that's how the first bar starts.
Let me see.
An author with arthritis.
I sent someone's tapping into my phones. Why do I got this feeling in my bones? I might die soon. The FBI might be trying to pull my life soon. My file soon.
I remember this one.
I might be walking
Yeah, I
blind
remember this one.
with typhoon. I might be seeking rockets lights up the night sky right outside the window of my living room. Those lyrics aren't really resonating with me, I'll to be honest with you.
Yeah, M got to do it.
Belicki said I would have liked Eminem to collaborate on that song. Oh, but wow, this is the song that I really know Stat Quo from. It was actually called Get Low. Stat Quo's Get Low song. Produced
Okay,
by Dr. Dre.
damn. I remember that song. I remember that one too. How do you go wrong, man? Mm.
He
I'm
said
just saying, like,
get the hoes get naked as soon as the song comes on.
yeah, yeah, I remember that. That was
Stat,
dope.
Stat Quo and Dr. Dre, Ryan. Do you remember Eminem's remix of Ski Mask Way?
Yeah, the beat was different. It started the same way, but then as soon as the beat dropped, it was like a whole different. It was like more. It was like more like a movie. You know what I mean? Like it was just different from what dropped on the massacre. It was good. It was good. It was a good different take on it.
The Massacre. The Massacre. Hold on. The Massacre.
Yeah, mine's the
Yeah,
Fast Way,
right.
Ski Mask Way.
No, yeah, that's right. The Massacre dropped in 2005 in March. That's right. I was confusing that. I was confusing that with Curtis that dropped in 2007.
Mm, mm. Oh yeah, Curtis.
Yeah, but Curtis didn't feature music that was halfway as good as Ski Mask Way.
No, no. He had I Get Money though. I Get Money was on Curtis. I give him that one. That's about it though.
He had I Get Money Late, but maybe we'll have to talk about the Curtis album at another point.
Bro, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. Ugh, don't get me started.
Before we go, we start getting back into the remixes, Ski Mask Way, the Eminem remix. Then they did one of the worst Eminem songs, Shake That remix with Eminem, Nate, Obi Trice. Like you said, they were probably just freestyling to some of these tracks. And since they own the beat, why not sell it
Right,
again? Why not
right.
sell it again, right? Cry Now, which was an Obi Trice single. I'm trying to think. I think Cry Now actually would have been Obi Trice's like third single off of Second Round on Me. I'm about to look that up to check myself.
You think it was on both albums?
Well, yeah, Cry Now is actually featured on Obi Trice's album. They shot a cheap music video for that. I don't know if you remember. They shot a cheap music video. They did a music video for Obi Trice's record called Cry Now. It was like when I say cheap, I mean like it's like how people shoot videos nowadays where you just take the camcorder and you record yourself. I don't know, DeAndre. I would have to say that 50's worst album is Curtis on 100%. The TOS album was nothing. The TOS album was really nothing compared to Beg for Mercy. We might have to do that though. Beg for Mercy versus Terminate on Sight. War Angel, okay. Not to digress, but did y'all like Psycho from Before I Self Destruct? See, that was like one of them. That was one of them 50 Cent and Eminem collaborations that I wasn't really into. 50 Cent, Eminem, Psycho, Before I Self Destruct. Was Eminem on that actually?
Yeah, it was horrible. Is that what the comment said?
No, they asked, how did you feel about it?
I didn't like it. Anything after the re-up, I don't like anything that Eminem and 50 did together, including that Adam Ravine song or whatever. I didn't like that one either.
Right. That seemed to be a failed effort. But Ryan, I was just talking about Obi Trice really filmed. It seemed like he filmed the Cry Now video, how a lot of artists film their videos these days. And when I say cheap, I mean like you have a camera and you go out and you film it. You know what I mean?
Homeboy video.
Videos
Yeah.
back then used to be $150,000. Nowadays, you could get it done with all your props for $1,000. All your props, right, Ryan? Like your location, your models, your cameramen. You can get it done for like $1,000, depending
If
on
not cheaper.
depending on how exotic you want to go.
The location, cars, like you said, props, models. Yeah, you can film a video anywhere from $200 to $1,000, depending on how dope you want it.
Right. So now I don't know what Obi Trice spent on the video, but I do remember the Cry Now video dropped, and I was like, damn, this is kind of different than his other shit. So
That was
so
a shock to hip hop when they stopped putting in the money in the videos and it became like just a homeboy project. Everybody has videos on sitting on this front stoop, going like this to the cameras. Oh God. And then I think back to like Biggie Smalls and Puff Daddy and the Biggie, can't you see in the Hypnotized video? Psh, bro, that was $1 million video, look beautiful. And now we on front porches with cameras, shooting guns with our hands. Like, oh God. YouTube, man, it killed everything. YouTube ruined it. It made everything too accessible.
so Eminem ended the album with a record called No Apologies.
That's the one. In my mind, I'm a writer and author with arthritis. That's the one I was thinking of before. Yeah, deep cut, deep cut.
What did you think
Real
about
deep.
deep cuts from Eminem, man?
I think they're dope, man. Like, see, with me and Eminem, I remember when I first bought the Slim Shady EP. You know what I mean? Like I went in thinking I was buying a comedic album. Yeah, I was thinking I was gonna buy a whole album of My Name Is. You know what I mean? And then when I purchased the album, of course, I skipped to like the second or third song, whichever track that was, and I listened to it, on replay. And I was like, you know what? Because this is me as a kid. I'm like in like what, sixth or seventh grade at this time. So I was like, all right, well, let me listen to the rest of the album. The rest of the album, I'm like, what? What about brain damage? Wait, what about you killing your mom? Like, wait, what did you just kidnap your daughter? Like, wait a minute, what do you mean you're homeless? Like, what you shopping demos at gunpoint? Like, whoa, completely different. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoa. So like Eminem is dope with the pop stuff. Don't get me wrong, the pop references, I'm making fun of boy bands and whoever is in pop culture, he's good at that. But when he reaches down to his soul, that's where you get the real Eminem. Like there's a clear difference between the real Slim Shady and the way I am. Huge difference. And that's what I get from Eminem from the first time I bought that album. Like he can go from Eminem to Slim Shady real quick, if that's a thing. You know what I mean? The split personality.
Okay. One of the people in the chat say Curtis had Man Down, Guns Go Off, Straight to the Bank, AO Technology, Amusement Park, I'll Still Kill, I Get Money, Remix, I Get Money, and the remix, Follow My Lead, Curtis 187. First of all, Curtis 187 wasn't that great.
187. 187.
Curtis 187 wasn't that great. Man Down was a letdown. Guns Go Off. What was the Guns Go Off one?
Yeah, my guns go off. It's 50.
Straight to the Bank was a failed single. AO Technology was a failed single. Amusement Park was a failed single. But the reason is it's because he released them in the wrong order, Ryan. Like
That was it.
He should have released I Get Money first, and then you follow, or you can even release AO Technology first. Either one of those records, and then you go Straight to the Bank or Follow My Lead. You go Follow My Lead after that, Straight to the Bank, and then you do your 21 Questions, your Amusement Park, with Amusement Park as the third or fourth single, Ryan, to show that they were still there.
He almost got dropped from Interscope for that album. Remember, they put this is the same album where they wanted to compete with Kanye. So he was like, all right, I got you. Yeah, I can compete with Kanye. So he dropped, I think, Laughing to the Bank first. Nah, it didn't do nothing. Then he dropped Amusement Park, and it didn't do nothing. And then Interscope was looking at 50 like, what are you doing here, man? This ain't gonna work. Then he dropped I Get Money. And that's when they're like, whoa. We got the checks.
No. Then he tried to release Follow My Lead, but it got leaked.
Right. I remember that.
Technology, and it failed.
It had the behind the scenes and all that with Justin Timberlake. Yep, failed. Timberland.
AO Technology came out before Follow My Lead, but it failed.
Right.
So 50 basically failed working with the hottest duo in music at that point. Ryan, Timberland and Justin Timberlake were the hottest. They were hotter than, am I going too far? They were hotter than Michael Jackson.
Yeah, they were up there. And as a rapper, all you had to do was just spit a quick 16 and you would be right up there with them. And that's exactly what happened with T.I., Justin Timberlake with the song My Love. See, T.I. didn't have to do too much. You just put a little tippity T.I. on there. Boom.
That was the best example because I don't think the next example that T.I. had with Justin Timberlake was any good.
No.
Well,
that was the Look to My Left. I don't see nobody by my side. Look to the right. Dead and Gone.
I don't know. What was the Jay-Z and Justin Timberlake one?
That was the You Take the Clothes Off My Back and I Let You. Holy Grail. Okay. I wanted to sing it too. I had to stop myself. Don't know why.
Well, I'm just saying that 50 didn't get it. 50 didn't get it with Justin Timberlake and Timbaland. Like his cadence was just off. He was supposed to do something different. maybe it's just the fact that his voice is forever changed because of what happened to him.
Yeah, he got shot. Could be.
No, Dead and
Could be.
Gone. Dead and Gone was hot. Did you not just hear us both singing it?
Nah, yeah, that was crazy. What? That song. Blue told me remind you. Like what? Oh man, then the Nirvana sample. I could go on about that song.
Sample was My Love with T.I. and Justin Timberlake. That was, yeah. Holy Grail. Holy Grail.
Holy Grail. Holy Grail.
Thank you, Cash. Let me see what. Oh yeah, I think it was Dead and Gone. T.I. and Justin Timberlake. And
Yeah,
Holy
right.
Hold on, I gotta see now. Because which is the one that says you took the clothes off my back?
Holy Grail.
Okay.
Holy Grail.
Yes, that is Holy Grail. Yep. Yeah, that's some shit right there that sticks in your mind right there forever. Now, Ryan, the last track that we got on this is actually it's a iTunes bonus track. I know back then you obviously weren't on iTunes. It was called Billion Bucks with Stat Quo. You probably never heard of it.
Nope. Wow. Now I really got to go back and listen.
Yep. So they had a track for Stat Quo on here. Let's see. So this album was basically the re-up, was promoted as a compilation album performed by various artists of American record label Shady Records. The album features performances by Shady Records artists Eminem, D12, 50 Cent, Obi Trice, Stat Quo, Bobby Creekwater, and Cassius, while affiliated with such artists as Lloyd Banks, Akon, Nate Dogg, and guest appearances. The album actually debuted at number 2 on the U.S. Billboard Chart 200 and has since sold over 1 million copies. As I said before, for everyone just tuning in, if this was actually marketed as a 50 Cent and Eminem collaboration album, I think it would have been the relaunch that G Unit needed at the time. The relaunch that Shady Aftermath and G Unit needed at the time after that separation with The Game.
Right. That would have brought everybody back together full circle and stronger. Because that G-Unit campaign was serious.
Yep. So let me see what I got here. Let's see. I got the commercial performance here, Ryan. Eminem presents the re-up. It debuted at number 2 on the Billboard chart. It sold 309,000 copies in its first week. That's an impressive first week. That's an impressive first week.
For a mixtape. Yeah.
Certainly an impressive a one single album, obviously you don't know, was the major single that they shot the video for. And it fell to number 13 in its second week, selling 151,000 copies. As of January 2016, the album has actually gone double platinum. It sold 2,051,000 copies as of January 2016, Ryan. So it's 2 times platinum.
I'm not surprised. That You Don't Know still plays.
So obviously at this time in music, an Eminem and 50 Cent album will never come out that would have the same allure as it would have at that point.
Nah, man. That thing would have went diamond overnight. Guaranteed, man. Guaranteed.
I'd say it would have sold triple the amount of what this album did if they would have marketed it as a 50 Cent and Eminem album. Now, you guys, Eminem and 50 Cent are obviously still really good friends. You know, M and 50 are still really good friends, Ryan. But I'm saying them coming together at this point wouldn't have been like it was had it happened in 2006.
No, absolutely not. No. But 50 is still making good music, though. I just heard that what he did for the new Power show that he got coming up, where he did a new video and a new song. That song is really good. Like, it's real hip hop. And then, judging that as being a really good song, and then looking at Eminem's project that he just put out, the B-sides to Music to Be Murdered By, I think it would still be a great album. but would it have the same impact as it would have had back in like 2005? No, absolutely not. No, they're not hot like that no more.
Let me read a little bit of background on this album, Ryan. So the album began as a street mixtape project, an underground, unofficial CD with raw production values. But what happened is that the material was so good and the tracks were getting produced like a regular album. So they say, but what happened is that the material was so good and the tracks were getting produced like a regular album, Eminem said. Instead of putting it out there rough and unfinished, I thought we should add some other new tracks, make it a real album, and put it in the record stores to give these new artists a real boost. So let me look at that line right there. But what happened is that the material was so good and the tracks were getting produced like a regular album. Now, I don't doubt that the tracks that they're producing, even for mixtapes, are getting, detailed and cut like a real album, Ryan. That's not hard to believe.
No, not at all.
But these tracks that we're talking about, the ones that you heard, the tracks from D12, the tracks from Obi, the tracks from Stat Quo, Bobby Creekwater, if you were in the studio with these guys, would you be like, wow, all this material needs to be on an album that's in a shelf?
Nah, I ain't gonna lie to you. I think they felt that when 50 and M were collab. Whenever you hear the standout tracks on that album, that's when they had that magic. Like I'm telling you, it wasn't the Pistol Pistol remix and it wasn't the Smack That remix when they thought that. It was when you were getting that raw collaboration material between 50 and M, Banks and Cassius, and between M and 50. Personally, maybe a gem from like that Everything Is Shady record from Cassius, that had it. That had some magic to it. You know what I mean? So I think based off of maybe those 3 or 4 records, they decided to build the whole thing. Call in D12 to do some freestyles or whatever. You know what I mean? Because even the song Murder, it sounds like a song that Eminem produced, did the hook, but he never used it. Passed it to a couple of his D12 homies. You know what I mean? Boom, got a record.
So I guess apparently on Wiki it says rampant misinformation about Eminem Presents the Re-Up included many false internet track listings and the claim that the mixtape would be a tribute to the late rapper Proof of D12. The D12 album and those unreleased songs with Proof are coming, said Eminem, but the re-up is about these new artists and these new songs. It isn't fair to them or to the memory of Proof to mix them up.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was a good look to put on your new artists, give them some shine with a project with 50 Cent, you know what I mean? Eminem.
I think some people got it misinterpreted when they heard that a Proof record would be featured on it. Some people probably heard that a Proof record, would be featured on this album that we hadn't heard before, and they decided to run with it, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Probably all those elements played a part into it. Can't even lie.
So, and then as you said earlier, the re-up's cover art was drawn by Eminem personally and depicts the featured artist except for Akon.
Yep.
Oh, that's dope. That was a dope piece of information you had right there as far as Eminem actually drawing the artwork, man. That's cool.
Fun fact.
Okay. Appreciate you. Call me Slim Shady. I'm back.
Yeah, that was my jam. That whole album going though. The Marshall Mathers LP, the first one, that whole thing is serious.
Ooh, don't even look at me wrong when I come to the hood. Akon, that was my joint. That was a banger. No denying that. Okay, let's get into some.
I still will kill. I don't want to, but I will if I got to. Yeah, that was my jam.
Salute our bro, King Cash. Beats. Remember King Cash from St. Louis Majestics, bro.
Do I remember him? He produced Cranberry Sour.
Oh shit, with
yeah, with Bizarre. I gave that boy his first placement with a signed multi-platinum artist. Salute to Cash.
Yo, what up with this? Come and Go was hot.
Come and Go. Who's that by?
I want to say it was 50 Cent.
I don't remember Come and Go. Are we talking about the Curtis album? That's what y'all really want to talk about the Curtis album, man. I got too much to say about that.
That had that no. Come and Go didn't even really have Dr. Dre on it, but it said it did.
Oh, no, I hated that song too. Oh no, I was waiting for Dre the whole time. He never showed up.
Yep.
I'm still waiting.
The Ayo Technology song with Justin Timberlake was dope. Dude
It
says,
grew on me. But we're talking about the original impact, like the first impact that I had on people when it came out. That's not a Cry Me a River remix isn't real, but that was dope too. That was dope.
Ryan Jeffrey says, I hated 300 bars. I find that hard to believe.
Was that Games?
Yeah, Games 300 bars.
Oh, you tripping, Ryan. Ryan, you tripping, man. You tripping. I ain't never met a Ryan I didn't like. You tripping, boy. 200 every 300, 400, all them Games was slaughtering, bro.
Yo, DeAndre says the people who G Unit were beefing with were now on top. So that ruined G Unit. Okay. He's saying the people like DJ Khaled, Rick Ross, Fat Joe started coming back. Fat Joe started coming back. What are you saying, Ryan? Are you saying that there's more than enough room for G Unit at that point?
Yeah, no, like your biggest problem with Shady and Aftermath and G Unit was that they were so big. They were so big to the point where they didn't think they needed any friends. You know what I'm saying? So like, whereas M and 50 really don't need any friends to make any music, but the artists underneath them would. So like, where Lloyd Banks should be chopping it up with Jadakiss and Fat Joe and all these
Young Buck working with
right,
DJ Khaled,
right,
Young Buck
right.
working with Ace Hood, able to make associations like that. You know what I mean? Rick Ross,
Gucci, Jeezy, Ross.
like
Yeah, the
that.
list goes on. Yeah, he should have been able to branch off. You got New York artists. Your New York artists should be able to branch off into the New York domain and work with those New York artists. Same thing with your Atlanta artists or your down south artists. They should be able to work with those artists. But G Unit, Shady, Aftermath wasn't doing none of that. So when it went cold, nobody knew where to turn. Nobody knew what to do. Nobody could work with nobody because everybody had beef with everybody.
So King Cash says back both of them in 06, 07 would have been nuts. I think referring to 50 and Eminem coming together like Obi, M, and 50 track Love Me. Love Me was featured on the 8 Mile soundtrack. I believe I saw Cash mentioned, right?
Yeah, Love Me was amazing. Yeah, that was dope. And that was Raw 52 where he was still taking shots at everybody.
Ryan says, damn, yeah, Eminem can draw.
True.
Trying soundtrack. Yeah. Ryan, what do you think, man? Do you want to go over the Get Rich or Die Trying soundtrack next? Or should we had another suggestion. What do you guys think? I'm going to ask the chat and I'm going to ask you too, Ryan. I'm going to ask you next. Iceberg, this isn't hip hop trivia right here. Hip hop trivia is coming on another day. That's actually going to be me as the host, Ryan, and then another person. And they both go, it's going to be hip hop trivia, best of 10 questions. So Ryan, basically I want to ask you and I want to ask the chat right now. Do you think we should do the G Unit the movie soundtrack, or do you think we should do Beg for Mercy versus Terminate on Sight, the G Unit albums? Which G Unit album was better?
Whoa, I like them both.
I think possibly next we should possibly do that, the G Unit, but we're gonna have to go in and listen. So before that, we could actually do the soundtrack.
Beg for Mercy versus TOS.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm down for that. I would love to do that. I would dissect them. Oh yeah, I would. Yeah, hell yeah. I would analyze the hell out of that.
But they want us to do the G Unit soundtrack as well, and that'll be interesting because there's other people featured on that, like Mace, Prodigy. You know what I mean?
MOP.
Spider Loke, MOP, right.
Olivia.
Right. TOS was kind of trash.
But we got to see why. And if you watch that Vlad interview with Young Buck pretty much wrote the whole Beg for Mercy album. You know what I mean? So we can compare because Young Buck was absent for the TOS. You know what I mean? So we can really go back and forth and really analyze like who did what and why. And yeah, it'll be dope. That's a dope conversation.
Now the soundtrack is definitely a dope conversation as well, man.
All in itself. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
But overall, Ryan, just to give some closure on the Re-Up album, overall, what was your impression of the Re-Up? I'll give my opinion and then you can give your opinion. Overall, what was your impression and how did you feel actually being someone who purchased that album, read about it coming, you know what I mean, for months? You heard all the speculation, all the news. You saw the first single presented on television. What did you think about purchasing that album and how it played?
At the time, it just gave me a chance to wave my Shady flag. You know what I'm saying? Like I was a big Shady Records fan, huge, huge, all the way back from MD12, Dr. Dre, Chronic, all that. So during this time, it was just a refresher. You know what I'm saying? Like we haven't heard any new M verses in a while. We didn't know who M was working with, what the next thing coming out was, and then, but the biggest impact was to hear Eminem and 50 Cent together, in all honesty, like really working together on a project. And I just wish that would have came to fruition over the compilation, but it is what it is. You know what I mean?
That's what's up, man. Yeah, the Re-Up album was something that obviously you heard about for a number of months. The Re-Up album came out in December. Obviously, it moved a ton of units. As we said, it moved over 300,000 units first week. I'm just upset that there wasn't much outcome from it because you had promoted Stat Quo now in front of 300,000 people. Where was his album? Where was Statlanta? We should have got the third Obi Trice album the next year as well. You just put a guy whose second album didn't do as good as his first now in front of a bigger audience, thus giving him an opportunity. You know what I mean? Also, we get this album, The Re-Up. Eminem and 50 had been known for their tours. I mean, look what Dre did with the Up in Smoke tour. Look what Eminem did with the Anger Management tour. Why didn't we get a major tour, a Shady G Unit tour? Could have been dubbed the Re-Up. You know, why didn't we get a Re-Up tour from the Anger Management? You know, a lot of things could have happened from this album that didn't happen. I'm not sure what it had to do, if it had to do with Eminem's addictions and shit like that. But I just feel like there was a lot. What do you think?
Probably. Between the drug addiction, between Obi Trice getting shot in his head, between the tour bus crashing with Alchemist on it. There was a lot of
the game destroying G Unit on the mix.
The game destroying G Unit. Yeah. Hell yeah. There was a lot there, man. There was a lot. But especially M's drug problem. That was probably the biggest.
But right. That's why I said this whole thing, 50 Cent and Eminem coming back together, if they would have done it as a collaboration album and marketed it that way all over TV, this is what would have shut down the game and all of the BS. You know what I mean? This is what would have shut down the game and all of the BS, you know, but they didn't market it like that. You know, it seemed to me like they put it out but stepped back from it.
They took it off from they took it down from YouTube, but when they were promoting the Re-Up, they went to 106 in Park. And shout out to M, I'm happy he's sober now, but that interview was so bad. I remember Eminem couldn't even talk, and 50 had to like finish his sentences for him when he was talking to AJ and Free. That's how bad it was. Like, dude was like really nodding and spacing out as he was delivering the interview. It was bad. You know what I mean? So if it's around that time, we're seeing why things didn't go. And then that's the relationship with M and D12 too, like we were talking about on the phone earlier. You know what I mean? Like what could have soured it? Drugs. Being distant, you know what I mean? Paranoid.
Yeah. You know, Ryan, so next they want us to take a look at the G Unit album, Get Rich or Die Trying, the soundtrack. It was more of a G Unit Records collaboration album. Ryan, talking about that real quick, I mean, was it a ploy in using the same title as his album just 2 years earlier? You know,
yeah, but I get it. Yeah, but I get it. Like that's exactly what that was. But I get it because I mean, that was the name of the album. That was the name of the movie. So naturally, they're trying to play off of this "Get Rich or Die Trying." Like they were trying to brand that at one time. You know what I mean? They were trying to eat everything. I mean, the album sold what, 9 mil in a week? You know what I mean? So they're
800,000 2 weeks in a row.
Shit. So yeah, they were definitely trying to push that button. Definitely. But the fact of the matter is, the soundtrack was very good too. You know what I mean? And I think that's why we don't give it a lot of flack. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a sequel album. It was like its own album in its own right, but it was still amazing. You know what I mean? In its own production wise, the collaboration, having all of G Unit on there. Yeah, man, it was serious. That was a serious album. And the singles were hot.
Well, we're going to take a full look at it, you guys, in our next review video. King Cash Beat says the beef took too much time out of their creative space. And like you said, drugs have been a big issue with the musicians' decline. Like Cash is referencing all of the beef that Eminem went through, you know, with like the records like My Toy Soldiers that he got depicted through music videos, obviously with Proof passing, all of this weighed on Eminem and, you know, probably made him go back on some of the words that he gave to these other artists.
I can see that. Definitely. There's like two different people. Eminem back then and Eminem today. Like you could tell he's been through something. He ain't the same guy. Just like Martin Lawrence, Bad Boys 1 versus Martin Lawrence, Bad Boys 3. Two different people.
Ryan, Tommy Guns is saying, what about Bad Meets Evil? That we had talked about that a little bit earlier. Why didn't that catapult Royce? He's a beast. Well, I mean, honestly, you're acting like Royce came out and sold 1,600 copies first week.
That's my
Royce,
thing. Like, what do you think he would have sold if he didn't work with him? You
yeah,
feel
like,
me? Like, be happy for what you're getting. Just because you're standing next to a superstar is not going to guarantee make you a superstar.
he sold 16,000 units first week.
That's dope. Like,
you're acting like this guy sold 1,200 copies.
Right. I'm like, that's good. Like,
okay, Ryan, I'm gonna bring this one to you, man, because you know, like on a few of your first records, you were actually working with a female. You had brought a female to the studio to get her vocals recorded. So I want to ask you, man. My guy Mark Flex is saying Olivia could have been the next Ashanti. I want you to be 100% real on this, unfiltered. Just give your real opinion because I'm not really gonna touch on this. But could Olivia have been the next Ashanti? But she messed up by not making quality material to be on G Unit. What's your take?
honestly, Olivia's had more shots than a fucking cancer patient. In all honesty, it just didn't stick. You know what I mean? I think Olivia's dope. She has a dope voice. She just never it never materialized for her, man. You know what I mean? And it's not a matter of what you just said. It's not that because when 50 first wanted to sign her, you know what I mean? She brought in the demo tape. He listened to the demo. He was like, okay, that's cool. Then 50 played a beat in the studio and was like, yo, you like that beat? She was like, yeah, I like it. He was like, all right, we'll write something to it. I'll be right back. Then 50 left for 45 minutes, came back, and Olivia had a whole song written. So Olivia's talented. Don't get me wrong. It's just sometimes it's not the right mix and makeups. You need the right beat, you need the right voice, and you need the right concept to connect with the audience. And it doesn't happen for everybody. And Olivia's had like she had Candy Shop, she had If You My Best Friend, then she had the Love and Hip Hop run. You know what I mean? So she's had like 4 different times to be a success. It just doesn't work for everybody, man.
Ryan, my guy right here says he's surprised that they didn't give 50 Cent's video game the same name.
They probably almost did, and they settled for Bulletproof.
Oh yeah, you're right.
They're probably like this close. Like, yeah, let's make a video game about it. Good one.
Young Buck the World album was fire. Is that something, Ryan? Is that something you? I don't think we compare Buck the World versus Straight Outta Cashville. I think we basically look at them and see his growth as an artist.
Yeah, and how them bars got better.
Yeah. Tommy, Kid actually stepped away from G Unit at this point. You can go check out my interview with Kid where he actually speaks on that as well. If you're interested, you can go check out the recent interview that I did with Kid. I recently did an interview with Kid where he talked about his departure from G Unit. All right, so Ryan, second part to the question with Olivia. Give Olivia the records that Ashanti had, and would it have been a different story?
Yes. If Olivia had Rain on Me, the One More Chance, using the Biggie sample, yeah, bro. And that's really what it is. You know what I mean? It's finding the right song with the right voice, with the right connection to the audience. That's really what it is. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like when Jay-Z signed, when he first signed Rihanna, he signed Nick Cannon's old girlfriend too at the same time, Christina Milian. And Christina Milian, she had that song, I'm Gonna Make It Gangsta, I, with Cool and Dre, credible producers who just did a wonderful job with Rick Ross's first album, Port of Miami. You know what I'm saying? And it was that versus Rihanna's Pond River. Pond River took off. Does say I went bye. So, I mean, yo, it it sucks, man, but that's just the way the industry works, man. Like it all comes down to the people. Like you could write your ass off, you could hustle your ass off, you could do as many shows as you want, but it's all gonna come down to how people respond to your product. Period. And that's with anything in business, business period. You know what I mean? We're talking about music as being the product, but it could be dishwashing soap. You know what I mean? We could be selling dishwashing soap, and it's like, yo, I could promote it. I could put it on every single channel. I could put it on every single billboard. I can have so many commercials going on about it. I could put it in movies. I could put it in placements. But when you buy the product and it doesn't work for you, that's it, because you ain't gonna buy it no more. And that's just the way it goes.
Tommy Gunn says 50 doesn't know how to cultivate talent anymore. What have you thought about 50 Cent's cultivation of talent? I mean, it must have been 50 who spoke with Eminem about wearing a Tony Yayo shirt at the Grammys.
Maybe, or M just did that on his own. I think 50's more trying to build up actors now, more so than more music artists. You know what I mean? And if he's gonna build up a music artist, it's gonna be through acting. Like the last artist he worked with was Radomir, the singer that was signed to G Note.
Right.
And
Right.
he was on Power, you know what I mean? And he had the #1 R&B album after being on Power. So I think the best way 50's gonna put you out there is by putting you on one of his projects, acting.
Yeah, that was actually Rotimi. I might be saying the name Rotimi or something like that. Dana Watkins asked, "What happened to the girl Precious Paris? I got $10 that Ryan B does not remember. The female rapper named Precious Paris on G Unit."
Yeah, he's gonna have to post that Cash App. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, Ryan Jeffries has one on you because Precious
Okay.
Paris was dope.
All right, I gotta do some research. I gotta check that out.
All right, let me get this 1 second. Let me check something real quick.
Precious Paris.
Ryan, I'm gonna ask you a question right now.
Shoot.
Oh, you would never get that.
You never know.
Okay. I'm going to ask you this question, Ryan. This question is about the second G Unit album, Terminate on Sight. Which Jamaican dancehall singer was featured on Terminate on Sight?
I don't even know. I ain't gonna hold you. Because Terminate on Sight, I didn't listen to it like I did Beg for Mercy. It was hard for me to support an album based off of beef. Like you're kicking a group member out. Like if I'm waving the G Unit flag, I want to support all members of G Unit. It's bad enough you lost Game. Now you dissing Buck. Buck is like the Southern Tupac when it comes to lyrics. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'd probably give that album 1 or 2 listens, man. I ain't go too hard body on it.
In the chat, I will ask you, who was the Jamaican dancehall singer that was signed to We the Best Music that was featured on the G Unit's album Terminate on Sight? Which Jamaican dancehall singer was featured on Terminate on Sight that was signed to DJ Khaled, actually? Crazy, right?
Yeah, of all people. This must have been before he had French go down there and spy on him. Film his mom's.
Iceberg, you are correct.
Wow. Good job. He's right, too.
Yep. Oh, mad people got it before Iceberg.
Oh, shit. Yeah, y'all right. Y'all all right. My bad. Our bad.
Let me see something real quick.
Man, y'all on it, man. I forgot. 2 listens to that album. I like the way she did it. I like the way, like, nah, this ain't doing it for me.
Wow.
Make $1 million every time my heart beat. How much is that? I can't do it. I couldn't do it. Nah, I couldn't do it with that one, man. That one wasn't rocking for me. Can't, and I won't. I don't want to ruin too much about that one though, because that I'll talk about that. We'll talk about that album in a whole another. Oh God, I was so disappointed.
Wow, I can't wait to hear what you've got to say about that album. To be 100% honest with you,
I'm gonna re-listen to it too. I'm probably gonna put it on when we're done, but
Because, man, you've had some great things to say about the Re-Up album, man. For everybody just tuning in, can you recap a little bit, like some of the positive things you said about the Re-Up album?
hey, the Re-Up album was dope, man. I just think it would have been even better. Like when it first came out, when I was looking at the track listing, there was a lot of 50 Cent Eminem collaborations, and that's what really gave the project its spark, in my opinion. So then it got us thinking, like, yo, was this originally, could this have been the blueprint for the 50 Cent Eminem collaboration album? You know what I mean? And then, like, the more you listen to it, the more it could have actually shaped up to become that. But it wasn't. But luckily, it put a lot of light on Shady Records, upcoming artists like Bobby Creekwater, Stat Quo, Cassius, and Obi Trice in D12. You know what I mean? Along with some single cuts by M. It had a single joint by Rest in Peace Proof. You know what I mean? That was really dope. It was all around. It was there was a few throwaways that I could have done without, but overall, it had about 5 good solid joints.
Like the various remixes. Like, okay, all right, if you're gonna put a remix to Ski Mask Way, Smack That, and Shake That, okay, put it as bonus cuts.
Yeah, for real. Not as selling points of the album, because they were not at all. At all. Could have done without those.
Yo, Chris. So I had mentioned it earlier that those 3 cuts with Eminem and 50 could have actually been as used as the 3 singles. Right.
Right.
It was marketed as a mixtape, but what Ryan and I are on here saying is that this could have actually been an album with 50 Cent and Eminem that relaunched the Shady Aftermath G-Unit relationship.
After Game came through and kind of separated everything for everybody.
Nick Miller says Straight Outta Southside is the best song on TOS.
That ain't even saying much, though.
I disagree. 100%.
Yeah, that's not saying much at all. I hate it. That was just a bunch of yelling. For real.
I really hate
you shot at my crib.
I really did not like how they used that as one of the first marketing tools for the album.
Nah, me neither. I hated it.
Okay.
I get where they were going. You know, the whole NWA, G Unit, you know, passing the torch. Like, I get it, but nah.
And actually, you know what I mean? They were speaking on Sean Bell in that situation. That whole Sean Bell situation on that.
Right. That had just happened.
So they were a little bit before their time, you know what I mean? But when I go to my music, just to be honest with everybody, when I go to my music, I'm not looking for a political agenda. You know what I'm just saying? Like, I'm not looking for a political agenda. When I go to G Unit and 50 Cent, I'm not looking for Bob Marley, you know? So that threw me off just to start the album. But yo, Ryan, we're not going to be discussing all the records like I'm a Rider. We're not doing that right now. We're going to do that in the next stream. So Iceberg said this, though, Ryan. Maybe you could answer it. Was Elephant in the Sand good? I forgot which songs was on it. I just remember the cover was comedy.
Honestly, if you want to hear the best of G Unit, it comes from the mixtapes. For all of them. Yeah, it was a DJ Who Kid mixtape. Yeah, and that's the one where they were coming at Fat Joe. Yeah, it was good. They're all good. Then they don't have a bad mixtape. They got bad albums, but not a bad mixtape.
Well, I mean, looking at it from the perspective of how the albums were put together, it seems to me like the first album, Beg for Mercy, is put together a lot better than Terminated on Sight, but we'll get into that later. Yep, he was dissing Fat Joe hard on Elephant in the Sand. It's good that them two have come together. It's good that those two guys have come together. Ryan, let everybody on here know where to follow you on social media and how to tap in with you, though, my dude.
Yo, what up? It's your boy Ryan B. He homie coming straight from the M City. That's New Haven, Connecticut, for all y'all that don't know. Yo, make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat. All Ryan B. Heezy, Hyeeze. All the same. At me. I ain't on no phone. You already know what the deal is with me and Mikey T. We not on no Hollywood stuff. We don't play around like that. You know, you follow us, we follow you back. You support us, we support you right back. Got you, man. It's all love.
Antonio Trey says, "You bugging. Terminate on Sight was a banger. I wasn't a fan of I like the way she do it, but they had plenty of bangers on the album."
All right, like I said, I'm gonna listen to it. I'm gonna listen to it right now, and we can come back to this. But from I don't like I was trying to like I was saying earlier, it was hard for me to support an album that was promoted by beef within internal beef within the group. You know what I mean? They were kicking Young Buck out and making an album and using the promotion behind that album by kicking him out. I didn't like that. It wasn't nothing I could really get behind. I like Buck. Just like I like Banks, just like I like Yayo, just like I like 50. It was bad enough game left.
Tommy says, "You think 50 Cent and Jim Jones beef is real?" Well, that sounds like a topic for another video to me, Tommy. It's not what, but Chris has a response here, in agreement with you, actually, Ryan. He says they don't get the flowers they deserve for their mixtapes. Never heard a weak tape. I still play them.
Same. I was just listening to Best of Who Kid and the G Unit and all that. Like not even a week ago. They really don't. They really don't. Them albums could have been. As a matter of fact, all right, not to jump back into it, but the Curtis album, 50 dropped a mixtape right around then, and that mixtape should have been the album. It would have been way better than what Curtis was. It was Fallen Angel. Fallen Angel. No, what was the name of that album? Hold on. Because y'all need to check this out. If y'all ain't never heard like some real 50 mixtape, War Angel. Check out War Angel. That would have been way better than Curtis. And it even has some of the same cuts that Curtis had.
Ryan, who had the better diss between Joe Budden and the Game?
Game
had some of the hardest disses. You know what I mean? You couldn't go wrong with a Game diss. You know what I mean? Buttons.
He said, where he at? He in Jersey? Nah, nigga, hacky sack. That's somewhere where the crack is. Yeah, listen to those. Listen to all those. That hurt. That hurt.
You know, Joe Budden just wasn't getting the respect he deserved when he was going at G Unit, Ryan. Nobody was taking, him as considerable as he should have been taken. I mean, look at Joe Budden's now. He has one of the most strong words in hip hop.
Yeah, definitely, because he's really been there and done that. That's why we believe him when he talks. Yeah, War Angel LP. That should have been Curtis. That should have been the Curtis album.
Okay. Mark Flex says, I remember going to NYC in Lower Manhattan to a tape spot to buy the DJ Who Kid and 50 Cent mixtape. They were selling like crack cocaine, no cap.
Real talk. That's when the mixtape game was booming, but they shut that down. Once the labels were like, wait a minute, we're not making any money off of this.
The Game killed Ryan. The Game killed Joe Budden and then said he got cooked by Ransom too. Would you agree with that?
Not as bad as Game did, but yeah, Ransom got in that ass too. Pause.
Ryan, why didn't Ransom make much more of a career for himself? If I could ask you, do you have any idea personally?
Hits, maybe. He had the mixtape game on Smash. We all know he had bars, but at the end of the day, you need them hits, man. You need them hits.
So what were your thoughts when Joe Budden came on the scene with Pump It Up? Obviously, we could take a deeper look at it by looking at his self-titled debut album. Was it self-titled debut album?
Yeah, Joe Budden. Yeah, the Joe Budden album. I've never seen an album with more of a rollout. I mean, like I was on the city bus and I would see flyers, posters everywhere. You know what I mean? Outside of like, normally you just see that when you're in the mall or like when you go to the CD store. Nah, man. I mean, everywhere I went, there was Joe Budden stuff everywhere.
All right. Like, not to cut you off, Ryan, but Pump It Up, it kind of struck me like the momentum it was getting, the push they were receiving, it was kind of like whoa.
Yeah. Pump It Up was a huge record. Huge. It was in all the movies. It was in all the video games. It was, that was a huge song. Huge. I've never seen Def Jam push an album as hard as I seen him push that one. I ain't gonna hold you. Till this day. Street Team was crazy. Say it again.
Joe Budden was in the fighting video game.
Yeah, he was in there. And his song was the first song that played when you turned it on. The Def Jam Fight for New York.
Of course, there was so many marketing dollars put into Joe Budden.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
think he just bit off more than he could chew because it's like before he could really follow up with another good single, he was already beefing with Jay. You know what I'm saying? Like he was already beefing with 50, and it was like, yo, bro, we don't believe you. Put out some music. Then the music comes out, and it's like, the album was fire, but nothing was bigger than Pump It Up. See,
Yeah.
that's the problem. You could be a one-hit wonder with that. You know what I mean? You got to be careful. You can't just have one good song and 13 other songs on your album that's just okay. This is why artists start putting out singles.
But
You know what I mean?
if he didn't follow the rules, how was he ever supposed to get, you know what I mean? How would he ever get another chance at ever catching momentum like that again? You know,
Right.
like the rollout that they gave that record, they'd be like, okay, you're going to do whatever we want you to do, or else you never get a rollout like that again. Possibly.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Right.
Because how could he ever top that rollout again? You know what I mean? But yeah, I appreciate Ryan for tapping in, y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed our first review. We went over the Re-Up album. We took a look at all of the tracks, but we took a look at some of the details of the album, like the fact that Eminem, 50 Cent were featured on a couple records together. They also had the third record that came up to be the first single called You Don't Know with Cassius and Banks. You know, we discussed all of it. I want to get everybody's take. So leave a comment on the Re-Up album if you purchased it. Leave a comment if you purchased the album, the Re-Up, or leave a copy if you listen to the album, and just leave all your thoughts, man. Yep, just leave your thoughts on the album, man. Appreciate you for joining me tonight, Ryan.
Oh, you already know, Mikey T. We in the building.
If we're gonna put the Re-Up on the report card, man, what grade are you gonna give it?
B+.
B+ for the Re-Up. B+ for the Re-Up. And me looking over the album, the Re-Up, I'm going to go ahead and give it a B-. I'm going to give them a B-. Why am I going to give it a B-? For some of the cuts that they had on there, like some of the records on there, like the Ski Mask Way remix.
Smack that.
Smack That remix. I'm not big on these remixes, even the Pistol remix from Obi Trice. You know what I mean? Some of the remixes really brought it down for me. Plus, some of the random collaborations, like putting the D12 records on there with guys like Bizarre and Kaniva, and then doing a record with Swifty McVeigh and Mr. Porter, and then not having any real follow-up on that. Like,
Right.
yeah, that would have led me to believe that there's going to be a new D12 album. Also, they utilized Obi Trice on it, but then they went nowhere with it.
Right.
So, and then another reason that it gets a B-, Ryan, is because of the fact that they only had one real lead single with You Don't Know. They
This
only
is
had
true.
one.
This is true.
Okay,
I just give it. Okay.
Iceberg's going to give it a C. Everybody else right now, what is your grade for the Re-Up? What's your grade for the Re-Up? F through A+. Everybody put your grade in here right now. And now I'm going to ask Ryan, why are you going to grade it a B+, and are you going to change that?
I give it some extra points because Eminem drew the cover. But not only that, the 5 songs that or the 3 songs that Eminem and 50 collaborated on top of that Cassius, that's like an EP for me. So we get those 5 songs and I just listen to those 5 songs, that's cool for me. I give it a B+. Everything else is out the window though, and that's why it doesn't get an A. So all the points deducted is for every song up there that is not included in my 5. Aside from the Eminem solos, because those are cool too.
Okay, this Mark Flex says he has the Re-Up album and he gives it an A.
Nice.
Iceberg gives it a C. He says C, mediocre C for me. Tommy Gunn says, I'll give it a solid C+. Not my favorite, but still an okay album. Notice the wording there that he uses album. You know what I mean?
Right.
This was initially going to be a mixtape. Maybe that's why our grades are that low. You know what I mean?
Yeah. With the filler. We're mad about the filler.
So Ryan, if it was just a mixtape, was it a straight A?
Yeah, I mean, if it was just a mixtape, then it's kind of surpassing what we thought it would be, and that's only because it's not, it's not. We recorded it in the basement and put it out. Like they actually went to the studio, actually started mixing the records, shot a dope video for it. So they went above and beyond for it to be called a mixtape. So if that's the case, yeah, it'd be an A, no doubt.
Ryan, do you want to comment on this?
It's safe to say black people do listen to Eminem. Yeah, I mean, he's a lyricist. I mean, yeah, hip hop is ours. Why wouldn't I? Or why wouldn't we? Yeah, black people listen to Eminem. Not the way we listen to. Okay, here, let's break it down. Eminem is a time and a place.
I'm going to give Ryan the floor to talk about this, you guys. So here you go.
All right, Eminem, there's a time and place to listen to Eminem. You know what I'm saying? Especially as far as black people. Like if I walk into my barbershop, I'm probably not going to hear Eminem. If I go into the gym, I'm probably not going to hear Eminem. All right, I'm not. Eminem's one of those dudes where you go out of your own way to listen to. So if you riding with me in my car, I might be playing some Eminem. You get what I'm saying? If I got my headphones on and I'm in the gym, not listening to what everybody else is listening to, I'm listening to Eminem. But it's deeper than that, man. You walk into a gas station, they'll be playing some Eminem. You know them Rihanna records. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah. Black people do listen to Eminem, just not the same way we listen to everything else. You feel me? Like nah, but really think about it though. When you walk into the club, we don't want to hear Eminem. You don't want to hear nobody killing their moms and stuff like that. Like that's not what he makes music for. He makes music for you to really listen to entertain you, and to think, not to party to, not to turn up to. 9 times out of 10, when we listen to rap music, we want to turn up, we want to party. This is why artists like The Baby, Meg The Stallion, Cardi B, this is why they pop in that genre. But to say Eminem don't get played, no, Eminem gets played. It's just not where everybody else is getting played. It's a time and a place for Eminem, and it's just not. It's not what I would call a general space for hip hop music. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so Ryan, I want you to analyze this comment and grade a little bit here. Chris actually agrees with you on the grade. He says it would have got an A+ if G Unit was more active on the album. B+ for me though. What's your take on that G Unit
Oh
being
my god,
on the album? What?
yeah,
Banks on one song?
Banks is only on one song. Yeah, if you would have had more Banks, Yayo, and Buck, yeah. Yes. I'm not gonna hold you. I love D12, but G Unit had stronger MCs. Straight up. Straight up. Even had a little Royce in there. Even if you put a little Royce in there, if Royce was dealing with them at that time, yeah. Yeah, you would have had some more quotables, you would have had more rememberable lines, more rememberable quotes. Absolutely, man. They're just a better caliber of MC. And I might be biased because I prefer gangsta street music to the drug fueled D12 wave. You know what I'm saying? Like me personally. So I might be a little biased with that answer. But yeah, it definitely would have held my attention a little longer if I had some more gangster hard records to listen to.
So Gucci Man actually said going back. So I'm glad that I'm gonna have to go here and say at this point we're gonna go ahead and give the Re-Up album an overall score of a B on the report card because I think that's maybe what it would all average to.
That's fair. Definitely fair. Definitely fair. I'm with that. Bro, they said Gucci don't ride around listening to Eminem.
Oh yeah, this is what we're gonna get into next, tapping back into the Eminem topic. Now Gucci Man said in an interview that he doesn't ride around with his girl listening to Eminem. Who would?
Right.
I mean, so Ryan, you were saying, what's the time to listen to Eminem? You said you ain't listening to it you're not listening to it in the barbershop either. You're not listening to the car with your girl. So that's 2.
Nah, you listening to M when you by yourself, he puts out a new project and you want to zone out and be entertained by some ill bars and ill lyrics. And that's not every time you listen to rap. I mean, like 9 times out of 10, when you listen to rap, you want to turn up, you want to drink, you want to smoke, you want to party. M clearly does not make that kind of music and is not trying to make that kind of music. So he's trying to get music he's trying to make music that's really going to make you think. So you're going to find yourself listening to Eminem when you chilling by yourself or you chilling with other fans of Eminem. And you say, hey, yo, play the new M. But other than that, no. Because you want to turn up, you want to party, you want to club. And that's where you got The Baby, Young Thug. And that's where you got everybody else for. You know what I mean? 50, Eminem does not try to make that transition into the club. He tried before, and it's a good thing he doesn't try anymore because it didn't work. So let him do what he's good at. But I mean, you can look at the album sales and tell people listen to Eminem. Like, yeah, maybe more so than Gucci.
Well, obviously, Eminem gets more music attention than Gucci, man. I don't even
Is that crazy though?
No, absolutely not, man. I mean, come on. There are two different degrees of artists, like in all honesty.
Yeah.
I don't know why Gucci Man would try to go at Eminem. Like that's kind of whack to me.
Mariah Carey.
Right. I don't know if it stems to that, man. That's
I mean, he was dissing him, talking about looking like Pinocchio, his nose won't grow, all that. You know what I'm saying? Like he was.
Well, we can address that in another video potentially, Ryan.
All right.
All right, relapse, and recovery. Two albums right there that potentially could go up against one another.
I like recovery way better than I like relapse.
And I like relapse better than recovery. So we might have to have a debate over that.
But I think relapse had way better production than recovery.
I agree that recovery sold more records than relapse. That's what I'll give to you. But
this is lit.
Yeah, so you know what I mean. But I would debate.
Good battle.
It's a good battle.
Hell yeah.
Relapse is solid. Recovery was dope. Okay, that's an interesting take. Relapse is a masterpiece. Every song is a banger. Not sure about that.
Me neither. Pretty close.
But pretty close. You're right. But I will say that I think I enjoyed relapse overall more than recovery, which is why I don't understand why you would take that battle, Ryan.
Wait a minute. I think I got my albums mixed up. Recovery came out after relapse, right?
Right.
No, so I got recovery. Recovery is my favorite.
Right.
But I think
relapse.
But I think relapse had better production than recovery. I think Dr. Dre laced him when he came out of the hospital.
Right. I think that relapse had more. I think it had better songs.
Yeah, but some of them threw me off. Like when he was getting raped by his uncle, like that shit. I was like, I don't know. I can't. That's like when he gets in that bag, it starts throwing me all off, bro. Like I'd be like, whoa, like I didn't ask for that information. You know what I'm saying? But then the beat for that was fire. So it's like,
dude, how cool would that have been if relapse and recovery was a double album? Then,
oh man,
then it would have been remembered as one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, easy. Because there's positives and negatives about both albums in that. And if you would have just got the best of both and put that together, man, yeah, you would have smacked it out the park. Like crazy.
I hear Eminem talking about relapse all the time, and he talks about it like that's the album that he most regrets, which is weird to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I would say that would be the Marshall Mathers LP 2.
Okay, hold on one second. Ryan, what was Eminem's last album after Encore?
Damn. Wasn't it
was it Encore?
No, it was The Curtain, Close the Curtain. That was the greatest hits.
Yeah, I'm not considering that though.
No. And then I think that's when he started dropping the collaborations.
Okay, yep. So Eminem's last album was Encore. And if we're talking realistic right now, the people asked him to follow up. Somebody in the chat said earlier, I wanted to ask you this, Ryan. What was Eminem's best album? He said the Eminem Show was Eminem's best album.
Nah, second best. Marshall Mathers LP.
Marshall Mathers LP, number one. So Ryan, Encore dropped Encore dropped in 2004. And that was his last single album until 2009's Relapse, 2010's Recovery, right?
Yep.
So they decided to split those up. But what I'm saying right now, the Eminem Show, a lot of people consider that Eminem's best album because it is his most creative, popular album. It's
Yeah.
his most creatively popular album, right?
Mhm.
It is commercially, it's more commercially appealing than the first two as well.
Hell yeah. Square Dance? Psh, yeah.
I don't know about
Hell
Square.
yeah.
That wasn't really my favorite.
Nah,
But
but still, just
what
damn.
I'm saying, Ryan, is that Eminem's album Encore, it wasn't that great of a follow-up. He did a couple things on there, like address the whole Benzino racist stuff, and then it was the album that people wanted him to come back and do, you know. But right now, what I'm saying is, if in 2009 he would have followed that up with a double album, Recovery and Relapse together, double album, he would have had a lot more interest in his career following, you know what I mean? Because he's lost it kind of right now. You know what I mean? The Marshall Mathers
Yeah.
the Marshall Mathers LP2 was a nice cash grab. I think, you know what I mean? It was a nice cash grab, but Revival, Kamikaze, Music to Be Murdered By, I feel like all these albums haven't got the same push that the original Eminem albums got.
No, hell no. Hell no. This is a whole different ball game now. You're right about that. He's not who he was back then. You know, he said that on Rap God. He was like when he had that line about the kids from Columbine standing all in line and all that, he was just like, maybe I could say it now because I'm not as big as I once was. You know what I'm saying? Like that's true. That is true. So the rollouts aren't as big. But I thought Kamikaze was dope. I thought everything after Encore was bad. And then everything after Kamikaze was good. Or it got better. So like those two albums in the middle, like the Revival and Marshall Mathers LP2, trash. Trash, trash, trash.
But Ryan, it's just really a matter of marketing. Like
Yeah.
if they would have marketed Eminem's Return with obviously Relapse, Recovery, same time. Do it at the same time. You know what I mean? That's Eminem right there. They would have sold a bunch of units and then they could have came back with the Marshall Mathers LP2 and people would have actually cared about it more than they did.
Rap God. But I'm just saying, like Rap God, oh my God. That album was just bad, yo. Like it had the Stand Part 2 and it was like a 7-minute long song. Like I was like, yo, what is this? Like, bro. And then Rap God. So I mean, if the album wasn't so long and you had Rap God to be your savior, it could have worked something. But nah, he was just trying to do too much, man. Just trying to do too much. And I think he knew it because when he went back to doing Kamikaze, that's back to what we wanted M for. The crazy punchlines, the cool stories. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like dissing people, being an asshole. That's who you're supposed to be, not the political dude who's trying to take on Trump. I don't know what the hell that was, but yeah, you're supposed to be the dude who clowns pop stars. Do
Well,
that. Now your hair blonde.
honestly, it worked out for him though. You know what I mean? Splitting it up, sort of like they did with the Lord of the Rings movies, the Hobbit movies, splitting it into multiples to make more money because they
True.
sold 792,000 copies with the Marshall Mathers LP2.
Wow. Oh yeah, I think it's just because his name was on it though.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Follow-up album. It was the follow-up album. Let me but let's take a look at the other numbers real quick. Let's look at Recovery. Recovery sold 741,000 copies first week. So that bump really only gave them 50,000 buys. Relapse first week numbers. Let me get it right here. Let me see if I can get the numbers for Relapse. Yeah, Eminem's Return in the first week sold 608,000 copies.
Okay.
608,000 copies, his Return. And then he came back with Recovery, which sold 741, and that was 2010. He came back with Recovery right away, Ryan, because he wasn't happy with Relapse. Relapse was 2009. Recovery 2010, the Marshall Mathers LP 3 years later, Ryan. So they kept the same record sales going. And they, you know what I mean? Because Eminem has always moved that 700,000, 800,000, a million.
Right. Consistent.
So let's take a look at what Revival did, though. Revival came 4 years after. 4 years after the success of the Marshall Mathers LP2, man. 2017, he released it or 2017, I think it said.
Mm-hmm.
2017 Revival. Trying to see the commercial performance here.
Wasn't that the Beyonce track?
The Beyonce track? Yep. Walk on Water with Beyonce.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Wow. Wow. Wow, it did crazy in the UK. I mean, it only sold
They eat that shit up over there. Hell yeah. I don't even think they listen to the words. It's Eminem, Eminem, Eminem.
Yeah. This album really didn't do too great, Ryan, because actually the Revival album has only sold, as of October 2020, 1 million. It sold over 1 million copies. Nothing like his other albums, man.
Yeah,
And it, like 200,000+ first week, man. And he followed it up the next year. The Revival album, he followed it up the next year with Kamikaze.
Mm-hmm.
This very next year. Trying to get some numbers on it. It's a little bit harder to get these new numbers. I'll just come back next time ready to go with all the numbers, Ryan. You know what I mean?
Nah, hell yeah. Yeah, you know how we do.
Yep. Come back next time with all the numbers, man. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. We might come back on later to speak on Kodak Black, Lil Wayne, both getting the pardon, Ryan. What do you think about that, man? We come back and talk about that a little bit later, possibly?
Yeah, why not? I'm happy Trump did something right. He got that right. Thank him for that. We needed Kodak. We needed Wayne.
Yep. We're going to tune back in a little bit, you guys, probably around 9-10 o'clock, something like that. But I hope you enjoyed our first album review, The Re-Up, which got a solid B. I gave it a B-. Ryan gave it a B+. Various people in the chat, appreciate you all giving your report card rating. You know what I mean? We got to grade these. We got to grade these joints. Shout out to Kodak Black. We'll be back to talk about that a little bit later, y'all, plus some other breaking news.